Welcome to Reframe Your Mindset for Success. With me today is Luke. How are you today?
Doing well, Paul. Thanks for having me here.
Brilliant. And how's the week been going?
It's been going well. It's been a nice week. A little bit both busy, but also a few moments to relax as well. Nice combination.
Brilliant. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, as you know, with the podcast episode, I always start with your story to get us kicked off. So it's kind of over to you in as many words as you want to tell it.
Sure. So I guess maybe one of the places to kind of frame this is in the context that fire has followed me most of my life. And what I mean by that was that when I was very young, I was kind of a curious, playful, a little bit outgoing, most definitely weird little child. Created my own little world. And when I was about 5.5 years old, our childhood home burned to the ground. And overnight, as my parents describe, I became a very serious child. And so a lot of the playfulness, the curiosity, the emotions that had been there really got quelled. And I became very self reliant. I became very independent, very focused on just being the kind of the good boy and the good student. And that really tracked through then most of my schooling and even into my early career. I chose, as an example, I was a pretty decent artist and designer, but I chose to go into marketing for business because that was the more responsible path. That was the more expected path for me to follow.
Yeah.
And as I was headed down kind of that path, I did recognize that in the career that I had, which was in marketing, working for a corporation, I just was not fulfilled, was not enjoying myself. I felt like I was completely constricted in where I was headed. And while I happened to be working for that firm, I was headed into New York to run an event that we were a sponsor of. And I was headed into Midtown, not to downtown, on September 11th. And I was one of the last trains that was cut off from going into New York that day.
Yeah.
And being outside the Hoboken terminal, which is directly across the Hudson River from Lower Manhattan from New York,
Wow.
I watched the rest of the events unfold, and I watched the first tower come down, and it ripped me wide open again. All the emotions came flooding back. Everything that I'd kind of held back
Yeah.
for all those years just came flooding back through.
Yeah.
And I started to question, is this the path that I want to be on? Is this the trajectory of my life, my career that I really want to have? And so I started making a series of decisions that moved me out of that job. It My girlfriend became my fiance, became my wife.
Yeah.
And I ended up uncovering through a couple of different career transitions or job transitions, not so much career transitions. I ended up uncovering this field called coaching. And this is back in 2004. So we're talking 19 years ago when coaching had formalized, but it was nowhere near the prevalence that it is today in corporate coaching and life coaching and health coaching and things like that. And so I went on this wild ride in working as inside of one of the training institutes, training and certification for coaches, worked my way up to ultimately be the CEO of that organization. And then about 5 years in, you could say a different form of fire came back to get me about 5 years into my position as CEO, because now fire came in the way of burnout. And I did just completely hit this wall, recognizing that the position I had found myself in was created, but created by a different version of me, a younger version of me with different priorities, different values, different sites that I wanted to be able to go out and accomplish. And then I found myself wonderfully, fortunately, being in this beautiful position, doing really good work, but realizing this was no longer where I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that began a transition, which was about 8 years ago now, of ultimately transitioning out of that business, out of my business, um, and then getting into a lot of the work that I do now, which is a very different form of kind of coaching work, as well as some guiding and facilitating and my own podcast on this walk that I now do.
Yeah. And on this walk, the podcast,
Yep.
starting that off, kicking that off. How's that gone?
It's going well. It's going well. I'm about 5 months into launching it, and what on this walk was really meant to capture was that I was sharing a lot of my journey, a lot of the story and the hardships, kind of the call it the real conversations about what my last 7 8 years have looked like. And I was sharing that with friends, I was sharing with family, with some clients and colleagues. And I'd done some podcasting work in the past, and it just kind of came up like this. this would make for such a great podcast because it is the real conversations. Where are the struggles? Where are the challenges? Where are the fears, the anxieties? What is it that we're facing? And what's the inner work that we need to do to be able to create the outer life changes that we want to experience? And that's what it was born out of. And thankfully, the feedback to the show has been pretty extraordinary.
Right with you. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? You know, like when you've had two, mammoth, what I would call massive life experiences that you've had from
Mm,
that, the house burning down, how, the pain you must have gone through at the time as a young child, to then actually seeing that, the Twin Towers come down.
yeah,
Those two events have really been a catalyst for changes in your life.
major. Yeah, trying. Yeah, they have been fundamental to who I am, the path that I've traveled, the ways in which I've lost myself in kind of being conditioned to be a certain way and take care of myself and keep myself safe in a certain way. And at the same time, without those, I would not have had the opportunity that I've had and the journey that I have to kind of rediscover myself and really start to remember more of the truth of who I am and shed a lot of that armor and conditioning that I had accumulated through those different experiences. To me, that's a lot of what life is that we're all going to go through different experiences. They may look very different from person to person to person, but it's how do we begin to allow those moments and those experiences to crack us back open to who we really are. And I've gone through that. I continue to go through that in my own journey.
And you mentioned obviously you went on the coaching journey back in, it was around 2004,
Yeah, that's when it
and
started.
yeah, and ended up taking the business on, and as being still being a coach. What's
Mhm.
the difference then between then and now?
I think that at least for me, it's my focus more so than anything is really about helping people get back into deep alignment, congruency with who they are at a level of essence, a level of soul.
Right,
And that means really stripping away a lot of the armor, a lot of the attachments, a lot of the ego
ego.
that right that we have cultivated. And it's I get it. There is such thing as a healthy and balanced ego. And we can do that and use that in certain ways. But what I found, and I see this still true in a lot of coaching work, is that there's a lot of ego polishing, meaning that maybe we're not as weak egoed as we used to be. Maybe it's a healthier ego, but we're still bought into these identities that we try to keep creating, which is the way in which we present ourselves and want to be seen in the world. And the
Yeah,
challenge is you think about just even the if on steroids, the effect of that on social media is that we get so caught up in the way that we need to present ourselves to others that we lose track of who we really are.
yeah,
And so a lot of that work that I do now is less about helping somebody create, the image of who they need to be to get the next promotion or raise their business. And we do a lot of inner work to get them back at a deep alignment and congruence with who they really are. And what I find over and over and over again is, of course, their career falls in check, their business starts to grow, their relationships get better. All of the outer stuff starts to really truly match the depth of love and joy and balance that they have found within themselves.
yeah. That makes absolute sense, and it's interesting, isn't it, in this day and age, to from our children to adults presenting their personal brand on
Yeah.
social media, and
Right.
we call Facebook, sometimes we call it Happy Book, because generally what we post is that we're always happy, or we're always doing something that's
Yeah.
significant that raises our profile, rather than it being you don't see the real person or the real life, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. Oh,
Yeah,
completely. The social media and all of the different platforms have become our highlight reels. It's what we want to show to the world, and this is who we are when we're at our best. And we all know that there's a part of that that just is not real. And we want that real authenticity again. We want that ability to see the full journey that people are going through because that's who we are and we
yeah,
know that's what we're going through. And so we need those forums again, and they do not take place on social media. It means human connection. It means getting back to meeting in circles and in groups again. It means having one-on-one conversation, eyeball to eyeball over coffee or over tea. And it means getting back to that to really truly see each other again.
yeah. It's that being real, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, as you know, the podcast is around reframing your mindset.
Yep.
So when we talk about mindset, why is mindset so important to you?
And I think the role to me that mindset really plays at this point is that it's what moves the unseen, meaning the creativity, the inspiration, the ideas, into reality. The mind is what allows you to organize it, to do it, to plan it, to optimize it,
Yeah,
and that's crucial because if we're going to have the creativity and the inspiration, the insights, the intuition that we have as human beings, we do need something that then can move that out into the world in a very, very powerful way. And so that part of it is very, very important. And then keeping that mindset balanced, meaning keeping it in check so that we do not make or continually make the mind the complete leader or controller of everything that we do. The mind and the mindset were meant to be a tool that helped us accomplish great things. It was never meant to be the governor of our lives.
well, that's a really interesting take. And so, how would you describe your mindset then?
I'd say at this point, more often than not, I would say it's calm, it's balanced. Balance probably is probably one of the critical elements of mindset for me, meaning that to be able to walk that line of not allowing our expectations to become attachments, to at the same time not allow ourselves to effectively be lazy or to not take that action. And so what it really comes down to is how is it that I keep the mind as energized as I can, as balanced as I can, as centered as I can. And I do that through, all sorts of things that we can talk about. But that really allows my mind to focus on what's real, meaning not the created story, but
Yeah,
what is truly right in front of me at this time so that I am working from the closest I can be to reality of the real circumstances of what's unfolding at any given time. And if I can keep my mind that sharp, focused, and present to be able to do so, then it's going to operate by giving me just beautiful solutions and ideas and ways forward. Whereas if I allow it to get very caught up, meaning imbalance, to get very caught up in the attachments, the expectations, the judgments, then it's going to move me closer and closer to survival mode, which is going to shut down the amount of actual brain power that I have, that any of us have.
yeah.
And so to stay in that more balanced, more enlivened state with my mind is something that's very, very critical.
It's right now with this picture of Mr. Miyagi saying to Daniel's son around focus, and it just resonates. When you look at, I mean, that's brilliant, and I love the way you've explained that. What tips or practical tools would you use to develop someone's mindset then?
I one of the most crucial for me on my journey has been most crucial on my journey has been meditation. And meditation for me, actually, I used mindfulness as the approach, was one that sunk in deepest. And interestingly, the mindfulness approaches I have always found most effective are actually somatic in nature, meaning that they're based in the body. Because what that does is the body will help us get very present to this given moment, meaning for a period of time, kind of out of our mind or very focused with our mind. And by doing that, it allows the mind to settle, to clear space so that we have a better understanding of when the mind is getting distracted, we can see it. When the mind is pulling us into stories, we can see it. When the mind is imbalanced and it's moving us in these different directions that we don't intend to go in, we can see the way that it's operating because we can see what it also looks like when we get it to settle and to still and to focus in the ways that we want it to. So meditation has been a tool for me to be able to learn to work with my mind in much more powerful ways and much more balanced ways, as I keep coming back to.
Yeah,
Now, that all said, other things that are really crucial to those mindset techniques. Exercise is absolutely vital to being able to keep your brain fed with the type of nutrients and oxygen and processing and metabolism that will keep it operating at its best. So while that's not technically a mindset technique, it is exercise, fitness, in as well as diet for that matter, are absolutely crucial to the way that your brain is going to function, the way that your mindset is ultimately going to relate. And then lastly is I have used for years, I have used a series of just simply prioritization techniques.
Yeah.
And one of the most simple that I do is that I really have gotten into the habit of beginning of my days, I write down what are the three things I'm looking to accomplish this day. And that always lets me know these are my priorities for the day. It's not to say I won't do other things. It's not to say I may not get to other things, but these are the three things I either need to do or advance. And that gives me an orientation to my day, and it allows my mind to stay focused. And it also makes it that much easier to know when I'm distracting myself.
Makes complete sense, really does. And then, obviously with coaching over so many years now, would you say that generally when you're coaching and supporting people, is it more around mindset? Is it more around the way they think that would be the reason they, not maybe not the reason they bring to you, but
Right.
is it more around the mind than, or is it about the body and
It used to be almost predominantly about the mind because that's what we're most aware of, and that's what we're most focused on, and have been taught that we have to focus solely on the mind and the way we think about things if we're going to get the progress that we want to get. And I take a much more holistic approach at this point. And that means that we've got to take a look at the mind, the heart, the body, the soul
yeah,
in all of this, right? Because it all has to work together. We're not fragmented people. We are holistic in who we are. And so it needs to be a whole based approach to the
yeah.
way that we move things forward.
I read a book and it was years ago, a long time back, called The Soul Cause.
Mm,
What I liked about that is that you're talking about being in alignment and being attuned. Is
yeah.
that we all have a soul cause in life, and
Mhm.
if you can align yourself to it, then that's when you're going to be most productive. That's where you're going to have your most energy. And I
Absolutely.
just found it a great read. That sort of resonates now with what you're talking about.
You're spot on.
So from the years of your career, from marketing to coaching to where you are today, who's helped you get to where you are? Has it been a book? Has it been a person? Has it been an event?
Yes. All the above, right?
All of them.
Yes.
Tick, tick, tick.
All the things, right? I think probably the most important, if I were to have to like kind of extract it, is the ability to, whether it be with a coach or sitting in circle or with a group, the ability to have space held for me so that I can process and really work through what I've experienced. That's been kind of critical. So you can almost think of it as a space to both debrief and reflect.
Yeah,
And so, whether that's been through coaching, whether it's been through circle, whether it's been in meditation as well, even journaling, all of these are different practices that give me the opportunity to reflect on what my experience has been. What do I want to take away from it? Where do I see growth, opportunity in what's going on? Where do I see challenges that I've encountered in the way that I'm approaching things, or the way I'm thinking about things? So to be able to have that space held for you to work that through, that to me has been the most vital. And I've been fortunate to have many people, coaches, guides, teachers, friends, family, et cetera, through the years who have all played that role at different times.
brilliant, brilliant. It's interesting, isn't it? Because we can get so busy being busy that we don't give
Yeah.
ourselves the time to create that space to really think about what it is that we want in life.
Yeah. It's a, I mean, that right there is usually one of the impetuses for the way in which people find me and end up working with me, is they recognize that life all of a sudden, it's almost like life has all their events and the experiences just keep getting stacked one after the next, after the next, after the next on top of each other. And
Yeah,
they quite literally feel like they have no room to breathe because it's always the next thing. It's always moving to the next thing. And that's usually when the signs of stress or nearing burnout will end up occurring, because they really are not getting an opportunity to reset, to rebalance who it is that they are and where it is that they are, let alone even just reflect on where they are right now in life.
yeah,
And so it creates that type of an opportunity, because yes, it's we just do not, with the way that society has been built, with the expectations that we place on ourselves, let alone others place on us, we get so caught up in the doing of all of this work that we never pause to really be with what we're experiencing, to be with what we're feeling, to be with who we are. And we need more and more of that to create a balance in our lives.
Makes complete sense. So over the years, on your travels and
Mhm.
your career, have there been any, I guess there's been plenty of funny moments, but funny stories that you could share with the listeners?
I'm not sure it's exactly funny, but it's a bit funny to me. It's actually a personal one, and it was a number of years ago because this highlights perfectly when you talk about mindset, just something that was going on. A number of years ago, this is pre-pandemic years. My son is working through some math homework, and he's getting stuck on something, and he's getting very, very frustrated with trying to figure it out, and he's expressing that. We're just kind of sitting around the living room. He's working on it, and you just hear it. He's expressing his frustration. I can't. What is this? Why can't I learn it this way? Why can't I learn it that way? And well, I jump in as as dad mode, and it's like, well, Jake, if we do it this way, and we can break it down. Dad, no, I'm not. That's not the way my teacher taught me. It's this way. And like, well, I get that, but I can show you how to do this. And I'm trying to work through this whole thing with him, right?
Yeah.
And then finally he gets frustrated with me. He's like, forget it. I'll do it later. I'll do it on my own. I'm fine. And literally just walks away. Now, the whole time that this is going on, my wife is just completely, she's quiet, almost with a little bit of a smirk on her face. And he walks away, goes away, goes upstairs, looks at me and just goes, you're an idiot. And just completely interrupts me, right? And she goes, he didn't want you to fix the problem.
Yeah.
He didn't want you to teach him. He didn't want you to solve anything. He wanted you to hear he was frustrated.
Yeah.
That was it. He just wanted to be acknowledged for what he was experiencing. And here I am at that point at coach, and I miss the acknowledgement of what my son's going through, right? It's totally right. I get right into dad
It's
mode, and there I go. And it's
it's
just
so easy to
right.
do. Yeah, yeah,
It's and we go through this. And so when we aren't mindful, we can get into this mindset, and I'll say this is true for everybody, but men do this tend to do this a bit more, is we get so focused on solving the problem
yeah,
that we miss the broader context of what's actually unfolding. And that to me was one of the big things that I took away, was he was looking for connection at that moment, not a solution. And so it helped broaden my view of things and gave me a different level of awareness of how to use my mind to take in more information and be able to get a better read on what was unfolding.
yeah. No, no, absolutely. And that resonates as well because I think and I know it is a little bit of a man thing, is that we do like to solve things, and I think there's times when I you think about all the years I've been coaching and wanting to be a better listener, and it's so easy to just go into solve it mode, and you're not actually listening to the person that you're with, who actually sometimes just wants to be listened to.
Yeah, sometimes that's all it is.
Brilliant. So that's it's quite funny. So for you, what's next now? You've got to where you are right now. What are your plans for the future?
Right now, my big joy is my podcast. I'm thoroughly enjoying just all of the unfolding of the stories and conversations that are coming out on this walk, and that has been a great joy. That is leading to some additional coaching and some group programs and work like that I'm doing. Honestly, I'm thoroughly enjoying being able to be in a space where I can look at the different opportunities that are coming my way and really actually get to sit with them to see which are the ones that are in the deepest alignment for me. And I've
Yeah,
got a few new business endeavors and things like that that are unfolding because of it. And I say it that way because for everybody kind of tuning in, the takeaway for me was that when I created that space, my initial, like, my energy wanted to fill that space back up. Like, no, get busy doing. No, you got to fill more stuff. No, take on the extra client. Do this, right? And it wanted that space to just be as busy again as it had once been.
yeah,
And if I had done that, if I had jumped on some of the early opportunities that were coming my way because I'd freed up my time and wasn't doing some of the previous work I'd been doing, I would have ended up committing myself to a variety of projects that were not in real alignment for me. But because I did the things I needed to do, meaning, paying the bills and all that type of stuff, but then gave myself enough space to see what is emerging, what wants to come through. And when something came up, how deeply resonant is this for me? And it allowed me to find a couple of things that I'm beginning to work on now beyond what I've mentioned, some new business stuff that is just a complete joy. And I love the people I'm working with, love the projects that are there. And I get to interact in a way and get to show up in a way that's completely aligned to my gifts as well as to my schedule. And so I would not have had that had I rushed in too quickly.
That's really interesting. It's kind of a trust in life as well, isn't it? You know, that the
Yeah.
life will find you a path if you're, willing to listen or willing to wait as well sometimes.
I have been shown that repeatedly. I have been life has been very kind and generous and illuminated the paths. And I have also done the alternative, which is I have completely gotten in the way and mucked things up. And no, I know better. I'm going to do this. I know where I want to go, and get so focused on where my ego wanted to take me that I
Yeah,
was blocking out the joy of life and the magic that life can present us with. And there's a balance to be, listen, pay the bills, do the things you got to do to put food on the table, and find a way beyond that to create some space and see what it is that's trying to happen for you.
definitely. That's fantastic. So yeah, and that in itself could be the last piece of advice for the
Yeah.
listeners on this podcast. But well, what would it be? I mean, would you build on that?
I think that maybe the way that I could build on that is that to be in that place, to create that space, what I had to recognize was I needed to bring that mind, heart, body, and soul into connection and alignment with each other. And when I've been too mind dominant, I became too like achievement focused and very focused on my career, but I was missing the broader context, just like I was missing the moment there with my son. And when I brought all of these aspects of who I was more into alignment, then I felt more balanced. I felt more centered. And it allowed me to have that patience to say, here's the things you got to take care of, but you can have patience with all this other stuff. And that's when life started to delight me with just beautiful things that feel like they're deeply aligned to who it is that I am. And so it's to maintain the whole picture of mind, heart, body, and soul, bring that all together. And that way you can, when you do reframe your mindset, it is a deeply aligned and congruent mindset that serves the whole of who you are.
Brilliant. That's great advice. So thank you very much for coming on the podcast. It's been brilliant talking to you, Luke. So many thanks.
Thank you, Paul. This has been great.